Today's my thought on today, I'm not going to call it a preach, I'll call it a thought, is that just really comes from this moment this week, doing some work, listening to a Spotify playlist called Worship for 2025, and this song came on, and it's a song that really hit me, really moved me. It's a Christian song. And then as I started to prepare this talk for today, I've just been absolutely wrecked. And like you can probably hear my voice, and I'll probably cry 10 times during my preach today, which isn't really like me, you can ask Emma, is that I want to try and take you on a journey with me in just what I've been thinking, praying and pursuing, that I want us to try and grapple with, hold with, wrestle with, because I think it could transform our lives and our year, and it's what's transformed me. And it's really about this idea of how have I endured? How can we endure is how it'll end. But I want to kind of like take you through a little bit of my life, and then look at a Bible passage or two that I think might help us to bring us to some reality. Is that how can we as a church, how can you as Christians, how am I as a Christian? I've been a Christian since I was 17. I can't wait till I'm 30. I think I'm 37, which means I've been a Christian for 20 years, which makes it a lot easier for me. Is that what is it? What have I been through? And I thought I really want to start really. And Paul does this once in his letters, where he writes about all of the things he's been through, really to show his weaknesses. And he writes repetitively over and over again that this is to show his weaknesses, that God can be made strong. There's no point in talking about endurance, is there, if we haven't been through anything? If you want to run a marathon, you need to find a marathon runner, not someone who thinks they know anything about running marathons. I want to share today that when I talk about this stuff, is that this is a reality that I have learned over the last 20 years. It's a reality that really God brought back to me this week, that I should never forget, that I don't want us to forget, that I want us all to come back to. So I became a Christian at 17 years old, left a world of gangs and violence and all that sort of stuff to become miraculously saved, like I said a couple of weeks ago, to an awesome church where they walked me through what that looks like. But the reality is that we live in this place called the world. Who else lives in the world? Yeah. Who else works with other people? Who else here has relationships with other people? Who here has money? Who here has none? The reality is that I became a Christian and was radically saved. I was one of those people that told me that, Ben, you just need to calm down, you need to stop going on about it so much, just need to just chill out a little bit. You've been a bit too much. That's why I became a pastor, because then I could do it for a job. But the reality is that when I became a Christian, and when I got saved at 17, is that for me, it really was a life and death decision. So therefore I said to God, I think I've probably got a life expectancy of maybe 25, if I'm lucky 30, so you can have the rest. That was kind of my approach to Christianity. Was when I became a Christian, they were like, it was either life or death, staying in gangs and dying at some point, or becoming a Christian. I became a Christian and said, well, therefore, God, you can have the rest. And the reality is that that was the start of my journey of following Jesus. And I've talked about it before, about understanding there a peace that can always be with me, thinking it was the worst deal in the world for Jesus, that he would give me all this awesome stuff for free, and he'd think I'd come back next week to church. And the reality is I've been coming back for 20 years. But in that time between then and now, I think it's good to understand that my life hasn't been perfect. It hasn't been easy. And there have been huge trials I've had to face. The question is, how do we face our trials and how do we endure? Because that's what I want for everyone in this room. I want us to know how to endure. And I'm not doing this to be boastful. I'm not doing this to say that I'm perfect. I'm doing it because I want us to understand that we are going to have hard times, tough times, troubling times. But in those times, where are we going to be found? What are we going to be found doing? And so for me, I became a Christian at 17, thought life was awesome, went to a great church, got employed by that church at 18 to become a pastor in training, was amazingly cared for and looked after and accepted. Made a great group of friends who to this day are still some of my greatest friends in the world. But in that church at 18 got employed, so that means I became one of the employees of a church, which is quite an interesting shift in terms of work life. What does that look like? I started to work for a church. But then what happened was I was at the church for 2 years. I was helping in the youth ministry, was being trained to be a pastor. And in that period, my church absolutely exploded. Not in a good way. I was in a meeting where the pastor was confronted about, really, I would say now as an adult, minimal issues. But there were so many people in this public forum having a go at him that he just lost the plot and swore at everyone. As a pastor, that's pretty much firing yourself in a moment. But as an adult, and as I talk to my friends now, as we are adults, we're like, actually, I don't think many people could stand there and have people that you've sowed your life into for 30 years, bringing up issues for 30 years ago and wanting an apology. I don't think many people could do that for 45 minutes and not get that angry. But the thing is that they both had to leave. There was a staff team of 3. If you take away 2, how many's left? Who was the last employee left? Me. So at 20 years old, I'm in a church of 100 people, 150 people, last member of staff, thinking to myself, what happens now? And that's one problem, right? The other problem is, the people who have been training me and mentoring me, the people I love who have sown their life into me, have now been kicked out of their church that they planted and grew. That's one thing to think about, isn't it? The next thing is that I've got all these youth coming from the community who come to us once a week. And they're saying, where have they gone? What do you say to those people? So I thought to myself at that time, this is pretty bad. This is a pretty hard place to be, and the trustees were doing what they can, but the trustees have started to leave because I think they could see this coming. So there's only 2 trustees left and me, who met with me at 20. And we were trying to figure out how do we get a new leader, how do you get people in, who's going to come alongside people, who's going to, where do we had no accountability, we weren't part of a group like we are in Assemblies of God, we were just a standalone church. So I thought, this is pretty bad, it's pretty rough, but it can't get much worse because this is the lowest it can go, right? I was engaged to be married, I just bought a house, I had a job, and I was like, this is good, this is all going really, really well. I'm sure what happens, we'll just get a new leadership in and everything will be fine. And the church could only pay me 2 days a week, which was provided by someone in the church who said they'd give a once-off gift to pay Ben to work at the church. So they paid me for, I think, 2 years to work at the church so I could become a minister. So 3 days a week I worked. So I went to work, and during that time, it was probably about 2 weeks after that happened, we were driving down the road to deliver some furniture and we were hit by a drunk driver at 60 miles an hour. Hit our massive van, snapped the axle in half, we were hit so hard. I jumped out of the car, tried to help the person who'd hit us. Their car was smoking and they were hooked all into it and had to get an ambulance to cut him out and the fire brigade and all that sort of stuff. And then I went back home that night and I got in bed and I didn't get out of bed for about 6 weeks. My back was in absolute agony. And it turned into me being off work for about a year, seeing hundreds of doctors and all sorts of things to try and get an insurance claim through. And I thought to myself, how much worse can it get? My church has gone, the leadership I trusted and loved to have seen me saved have now been kicked out and I haven't seen them or been able to say goodbye. The job I've got as a delivery driver is in jeopardy now because my back's gone. I don't know what I'm going to do about this. But at the same time is that the church I'm at that was employing me has now got a new pastor who I've just vouched for and said, I think this is the person God's appointed to. And they're now trying to get me out of the job. So now I'm losing my other job. But what's in the background? I've got a mortgage to pay. So I'm thinking to myself, how do I pay a mortgage on a house if I'm about to lose both my jobs? It's pretty stressful. But it couldn't get any worse than that. Because I was lucky because I was engaged to be married. And we'd known each other for a few years. We both went to the same church and all this sort of stuff. We were about 10 weeks away from the wedding since the final deposits were due to be paid. And so, job's gone, church gone, bad back, really bad back. And then my fiance met me at the house that we were trying to renovate whilst I had a bad back. And so I was 9 months into renovating it with her dad. And then she turns up one day and I said to her, look, your dad keeps asking when are we going to do the final deposits because he wants to pay them, but you've got all the details to pay the final deposits and he wants them. I don't know why he's not asking you, but he's now rung me to ask you, can you just sort it out with him, like when you go home? She was like, yeah, well, there is a question that I have, is that I don't actually know, Ben, if I love you. Which is a weird thing to say 10 weeks before your wedding. She said, I can't distinguish between a love for a friend, a love for a husband. I can't tell the difference. But I will marry you, but it's up to you now with that decision to be made. And I sat in this house, on the floor, thinking, she must just have cold feet. I've heard about this on the TV before. I'll say, you know what, it's off until you can come back and tell me you love me. Thinking in that moment, she'd say, I'm really sorry, I'm just being stupid. She walks out that door, never to return. Job, not working, church in disarray, horrifically bad back, a house I didn't know how to pay a mortgage on that I could no longer renovate because of my bad back. But it's alright because I'm about to get married, but that's gone. And then what happens is that I was part of a huge friendship circle. When I say huge, I'm talking probably 60 Christians between the ages of 18 to 30. So we'd meet up twice a week and all that sort of stuff. But my fiancée was so broken and so hurt that they decided that she was the one who needed to be cared for. So my friendship circle went from that to just me and my best mate Luke. And I still remember this day, one Christmas, me and him sitting in my bedroom on my Xbox together, going, so this is it now. Where is everyone gone? And we had text messages from people saying, just to let you know, we are going out to the cinema today, but we haven't invited you because she's going to be there and we think she needs more support than you. Job gone, fiancé gone, a mortgage that I haven't got money coming in for to pay. And in my life, there have been all of these trials. I've been crushed by cars. I've faced financial troubles over and over again with job security. Even this year, thinking to myself, what does it look like if the money runs out next week? My Ash has been in hospital twice, nearly dying. The reality is, in my life, there have been so many trials. And the reality of your existence is this, is that you have all been through so many trials. The question isn't, are we going to have trials? Just read from Paul, the persecution he faced. Like, in all those times, in all those things, in all those places, in all those moments, is like, how do you endure? How? So, I think really, what I want to share with you, and what I'm going to try and share through these few verses I've got, is what I was talking about a minute ago, about that God is a reality to me. The only thing I did when my back was so bad I couldn't get out of bed, the only thing I still do is go to church on a Sunday. I used to go doped up on ibuprofen and all sorts of crazy drugs that made me feel very unwell and very out of it, that I couldn't tell if I was hearing Jesus or hallucinating. But what I knew was that that's where I needed to be on Sunday. I was just sitting in that seat with my Christian friends who were at that church, who were still around, being prayed for and cared for. And in all those seasons, in all those moments, it was that. But then what happened this week is this. The reason all that stuff's come up is because this song that I started to listen to, it really started to move me and make me cry and make me feel all these feelings that I'm not used to feeling. And so then what happens is that I wanted to share with you this idea about that God is really a reality that you can truly have. And that's really what got me through all these things. And I've got these kind of verses that when I started to read them is that I read the Bible. It's my job. It's what I do. But what happened was I started to read these verses and just this morning just cry. Because I stopped reading them as words. I stopped reading them as like a text to be studied, to preach on. But like, oh my goodness, like these words are true. And it made me think, in all those hard moments I've been through, in all the times I've found myself bottoming out, when I found myself just sitting there going, what is possibly next? Is that in those moments what became apparent was God's reality. And so what I want us to do is to read these words as reality, that this is what God is actually saying about us. This is actually what God is teaching us and showing us. This isn't just words. This isn't a storybook. It's not a theology to apply to your life. It's a reality that he is telling us. And when I started to read like that, I just couldn't help but just be like, oh my goodness. And the first one, I'm not going to stick too much in it. I'm kind of just going with the flow this morning, just in case you wondered. Is that there's this little part in it that comes with kind of a warning, and it's like Isaiah 50, 4 to 11. And this is kind of like going to become my verse for this year, because it's the sort of person that I'd love to be. And in Isaiah 4 to 11, it just talks about the obedient servant. It's actually talking about the prophet at the time. It's also a foretelling of Jesus when he comes and what he will face and how he doesn't turn away and all this sort of stuff. It says this: the Lord's obedient servant. And when I read this morning, I couldn't help but think of myself as this 17-year-old who came to Jesus and said, Lord, whatever you want for the rest of my life, here I am. And it says this, the Lord has given me this word of wisdom so that I know how to comfort the weary. Morning by morning, he wakes me and opens my understanding to his will. The sovereign Lord has spoken to me and I have listened. I've not rebelled or turned away. I offered my back to those who beat me and my cheeks to those who pulled out my beard. I did not hide my face from mockery and spitting. But the sovereign Lord helps me. I will not be disgraced. Therefore, I have set my face like stone, determined to his will. And I think in all the things I've faced, and I haven't been beaten, no one has pulled my beard out. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that in all the things in all these trials, in all the things I've been through, what I decided at 17, really, and where this verse comes from for me is this, is that I have set my face like stone. And it says in an older version, like flint, determined to do his will. The question is for us is that, have we determined that despite the circumstances and trials that we are going to face, that I'm going to set my face like stone and just say, God, determinedly I am going to endure. Because the rest of this is telling us it's God who is doing it. That's the point of this. Morning by morning, who wakes him? Tell me, who does it say? Morning by morning, who wakes him? God. So therefore, it's letting us know that all this thing is happening because the sovereign Lord is doing it. God is doing it. God is doing it. God is doing it. His part is to say, I'm going to set my face like stone and keep going because God is going to do it. And in all those moments I found myself in, all the hard times I found myself in, what I have dedicated and decided is that I'm going to set my face to do the will of God. Not always succeeding, not always being a huge success, not being miserable, not being grumpy, but actually saying, God, I'm going to set my face to this. And I know that I will not be put to shame. He who gives me justice is near. Who will dare to bring charges against me? Where are my accusers? Let them appear. See, the sovereign Lord is on my side. Who will declare me guilty? All my enemies will be destroyed. Like old clothes, they have been eaten like moths. Who among you fears the Lord and obeys his servant? If you are walking in darkness without a ray of light, trust in the Lord and rely on God. Watch out, you who live in your own light, and warm yourselves by your own fires. This is the reward you will receive from me. You will soon fall down in great torment. As I started to read this aspirational verse in my life, to be a sort of person that is saying, God, I'm going to pursue you and let you deal with all the other stuff. Because it just came to the end of this verse and kind of like something I wanted to point out for us that maybe could be a problem. And it comes in a two-part. The first part is the solution. Who among you fears the Lord and obeys his servant? If you are walking in darkness without a ray of light, trust in the Lord and rely on God. I have found myself in the last 20 years many times in darkness. Lost without any direction, not knowing what to do, not knowing what to say, not knowing where to go. But what I determined in those moments was this. That I am going to choose that in those moments to know that God told me, without a ray of light, trust in the Lord and rely on God. So in the darkest and hardest times in your life, you set your face like flint to say, it is dark. He's not denying it. He's not saying, pretend the darkness isn't real. What he's saying is, in the dark times, what you have to do is trust in the Lord and rely on God. And so in those moments in my life, that is what I'm setting my face like stone to say, I'm going to trust in him. When Asher was sick, when there was no hope, all I could do is say, all the other stuff has failed. I'm going to set my face like stone and trust in God. Because there is no light in this place. There is no shed of light at the moment. But what there is still the small, still whisper. Yeah. That God is with me. That he's not going to abandon me and forsake me. And right now it looks dark. But what I know more than anything is that I can trust God. Yeah. And that is what I'm going to set my hope on. That is where I'm going to keep my eyes fixed. That is the direction I'm going to travel in. Because it also comes with a warning which I want us to really take on board. Because believe you me, it's the biggest temptation we can have. Is to make our own flipping fire. Be our own light. What we can try and do is say, you know what? I'm fed up of waiting. I'm fed up of being in the darkness. I'm fed up of there being no light. And I'm not going to trust in the Lord. I'm not going to trust in God. I'm going to build my own fire. I'm going to be my own light. The reality is, most of the reason we end up in our problems is we followed ourselves. And the reality is, in those moments, what I want us to be aware of is this. But watch out, you who live in your own light and warm yourselves by fire, your own fires. Be careful about the counsel you're being given. Be wary about what you are deciding to do and not do. And just think to ourselves, in this moment right now, am I deciding to build my own fire? And sometimes that can look like, just go read Job. Sometimes it can be bad advice we've given. Sometimes it can be like, I know that's what the Bible says, but right now what I'm going to do is this. But the trouble is when we start to do that, we create a place of comfort in a place that we should never have lived or stayed. Because the trouble is, what happens is we make our home in the darkness by making a little fire there. When actually what we're supposed to do is trust God and believe in Him and wait on Him, and He will come and break through. And I want to warn us, church, that what it does is it pulls us away from trusting in God, and it just pulls us towards another fire. But the Israelites followed a pillar of fire and a pillar of cloud that they followed day and night. That is what we should be pursuing to follow, not our own fire. God isn't calling us to create our own fire, our own light. He's calling us to come to Him. That's the whole point of that whole, go read the chapter again in 50. It's telling us that God is doing it, God is doing it, God is doing it, God is doing it. And the stupid thing in the middle of that is then to build our own fires, to build our own light. The Bible tells us that His ways are higher than our ways. His thoughts are greater than our thoughts. If there's one person I'd like to trust in the middle of me not knowing what to do, is God. The person I least want to trust in the middle of me not knowing what to do is myself. Because I don't know what to do. And so be wary in those moments where you find yourself in drift, which in faith we all will. In moments of drift, be wary that in drift what you don't do is start to make your own fire and your own light. Instead, fix your face like flint, like stone, and say, God, in the midst of this, I'm going to trust you, I'm going to pursue you, and I'm going to know you. And it might feel dark right now. It might feel like there is not a light. But your word tells me in Matthew 28 that even to this end of this age, you will be with me. Therefore, right now, you are with me. So be wary of your own fires. Be wary of your own light. Be wary of other people who are inviting you to their fires. Who are saying, look, I know that's what it says, but come here. Come and warm yourself at my fire. Because the enemy is out there to kill, steal, and destroy from you. And he does that through people with good intentions. Saying, come and warm yourself by my fire. Come and see my light. And the compromise starts right back then. Instead, determined to know God, to trust in Him, and to rely on God. The next place we go to, and I don't know how far, it's the whole of Ephesians 2, so we could be here for 4 hours just exploring this. But the next thing I want us to remember is how do we endure is really simple, but yet, and I think it's the thing that has moved me the most, is remembering my salvation. In Ephesians 2 it says this: once you were dead because of your disobedience and your many sins. You used to live in sin just like the rest of the world, obeying the devil, the command of the powers of the unseen world. Here is the Spirit at work in the hearts of those who refuse to obey God. All used to live that way, following the passionate desires and inclinations of their sinful nature. By our very nature, we were subject to God's anger, just like everyone else. These are words I have read and studied. And when I first became a Christian, they were words that really moved me because of the reality of my salvation story. I would like as many of you who are able to stand up. Okay, so if you are able to stand up. Okay. There is on offer today £1 billion for all of you. All you have to do is move the floor down 2 foot. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Why aren't you doing it? Why can't you do it? What's wrong with you?
All jump together, maybe?
Yeah. £1 billion each. No worries, financial worries for the rest of your life. Do you even care? £1 billion. Why aren't you doing it? It's impossible. But try harder. Because maybe, just maybe, you could do it. Maybe we could stay for the rest of our lives trying to do it. Because maybe it could be really worth, because maybe in 10 years' time we just stay here and keep doing it. Maybe one day it might just give way. And you'll all be billionaires. I don't see you trying very hard. You just seem to be standing. Maybe you could eat a bit more. There's a kitchen out there. I've seen some good biscuits. There's some water out there. Maybe you can all fill yourself like water and make you heavy enough. Who knows it's an impossibility?
Yes.
Who knows £1 billion will transform your life? So, you can sit down. I cannot and will not give in to this idea that you nearly got into heaven. I didn't nearly get in. I was a bad person, okay? I understand that you can listen to my testimony and be like, oh my goodness, Ben, of course you didn't get in, mate. Like, you're a horrific person. I wouldn't let you in. But the reality is, if we approach the gospel like, I almost got in, I was nearly good enough, I nearly did it, but I really thank Jesus that he turned up at the last minute and pulled me in. Praise the Lord. Because I was 90% there. I don't know if any of you weightlifting, there's a weight you just can't lift and your spotter comes along, they just lift off 2% and then suddenly what was immovable becomes movable. The reality is, when Jesus found us, he didn't find people who were trying to get in. He found dead people. You were dead when he found you. Just like this floor wouldn't move, salvation couldn't be found by us. Couldn't be won by us. Couldn't be done by us. And I think one of the things that has hit me most, and one of the things I have been praying for forgiveness all morning more than anything is, I can't believe that I've forgotten the fact that when he found me, there was nothing I could do to save myself. And the reason in every trial, in every circumstance is this, is that my starting point of salvation wasn't, I nearly got in, but at the last 10 seconds he was like, I know you're struggling a little bit, Ben. Here's the last 10%, mate. Come on in. You did really well, pal. No. God turns up. Knowing every wretched thing I thought and done. Knowing that my judgment, jury and conviction was guilty. Knowing myself more than anyone. If there was one person I truly believe shouldn't be in heaven, it would be me. And yet when God found me, he knew the same thing. And so he sent his son to die for me, to make a way for me, to say, Ben, you do deserve death. Because you've done horrible things. You've thought them and you've done them. And you've done things that are horrible. But I love you. And the thing is about God's love compared to man's love is, God's love is different because you didn't earn it. And I know that's a really hard concept for us to grasp, but, and I say it all the time, but like, let the reality set in. You cannot be any more loved by God than the first day he ever met you, okay? Which means that when I met him and when he saved me, I knew something, this, I could not save myself. But the reality is that 20 years later it becomes forgotten, or it becomes a verse like, you were once dead because of your disobedience and many sins. No. Without Jesus, the reality of my eternal existence would be death. He didn't find me 90% of the way nearly in. He found me 200% out, running around screaming and confused. And he didn't just let me in. That's not the gospel. It's not the gospel of God was like, oh, you know what, Ben, I'm really sorry, pal. You're all right, mate. Come on in. No. The wrath and fury of God for all the things I've done had to be put somewhere. Because God is just and fair and he doesn't change. Therefore, everything I've done wrong had to be paid somewhere. There was a check out there that needed to be paid, and Jesus paid it for me. Not impersonally. It's one of the greatest things when we study theology, we understand that God is all things in all places at all times. So that when he died on the cross as one person in one moment, he could also do it for each of you individually. Thinking of your name and your sin and everything you've done wrong, and he could own it and take it and claim it for your behalf and my behalf. Why? Because I couldn't save myself because I was dead. Therefore, a person had to die for me to make a way for me to be rose again from the dead. And the reality, more than anything, is that this Jesus didn't just die, and this is the thing that still blows my mind more than anything. He didn't buy to get you a ticket to heaven. Nope. He died because he passionately wants a living, breathing relationship with you. That's why when he leaves, he comes back and he says, I am going to the Father, but I will send another. Why? Because he doesn't want you to be on your own. He wants to say to you, I have made a way that you can be cleansed and whole, just like that temple over there. And I'm going to come and I'm going to live in you. The reason I can face the trials, the reason I can go through hell and high water, the reason I can get to the other side isn't because I'm special. Isn't because I know I deserve it. Because I know my journey started knowing I didn't. Therefore, what does it matter what's happened in the last 5 years? Because in every trial, I'm not thinking to myself, did Ben do enough? Is Jesus really going to turn up this time? Because you know what? I didn't tithe enough, I didn't fast enough, I didn't pray enough. That's not where my journey started. That's not where your journey started. That stuff is just an overpouring of my gratification for what Jesus has done for me. And in my lowest and in my hardest times, the reality is I come back to this. That when he found me, I was dead. And he was willing to die for me then. Well, what's he going to do now I'm alive and I'm his kid? Because I'm going to set my face like stone. I'm going to say, God, I'm going to trust and I'm going to follow and I'm going to pursue. And right now I might not understand why my kid is sick, why my fiance's left me, where I've got no money for my mortgage, my job's about to fail. My face is set like flint. And if you have to strip all away and it's just me and you, that will be enough. But by Jesus, please see me through. Jesus, please let the darkness pass. Jesus, please let the night die. And the Bible tells us that although night comes, morning is guaranteed to come. Who went to bed last night in the dark? Who woke up in the light? The night can last 12 hours. In some countries it can last 23. But the sun will come up again. And sometimes we need to learn to be still. Set our face like stone. And say, God, I'm going to trust and I'm going to follow you wherever you go. And for me, one of those simple things was this, is that in every season, in every moment, the place I'm going to be, if I am able to be there, is in this place. Because this is not a meeting, it's not a social club, this isn't Scouts, this isn't a school PTA. This is the people of God gathering together and say, God, above everything, I will worship you. And I stand up here every week telling you that. Whether you've had a good week or a bad week, we worship God because he is God. There is no one else like him. And some weeks I've stood there and I've worshipped him, despite the fact my world was collapsing. If I knew that in a moment of silence I could close my eyes and find Jesus again and realise he has never stopped talking to me, what greater thing than it be to leave on Sunday morning? But maybe you know what, I could stay at home and make my own fire. Maybe I could make my own light for a little bit. But the reality is in these moments, what got me through every moment to this is that God is really real. But we can treat him like a concept. We can treat him like a page on a book. We can treat him like a word. But all of the things are given to us so they can become a real reality in your life. The world is not hungry for more pages in a book. It's hungry for a reality of a God who will meet them where they are. Really meet them. Not like some crazy abstract concept like God will meet you in like the ethereal out there like when you die. No, in the reality of your moment, praying for someone that God will break through in their life. The reality of sitting with someone in their pain. The reality of being able to come together to church. The reality of being able to worship him. In those moments, God starts to meet us. To train our bodies to say, right now the world is on fire, but can I find the voice of Jesus? Right now my marriage is in disarray, but can I find the voice of Jesus? Right now, everything is falling apart, but can I find the voice of Jesus? Will I set my face like stone and say, this is where I'm going, that I will trust in him and that the morning will come. And I might only be 2 a.m. and I know there's 5 hours still to go. But what I cannot do right now is move away in the darkness and think I'm going to find my own way out. That is stupidity. I literally want more than anything this week to do this 1,000 times, is just to sit with Jesus and just cry. Just that, like, I was dead. Dead. And he saved me. Like, I don't think we have to go much more than that on a Sunday morning, do we? Like, when does it become normal? And this morning, Emma came and said, how's it all going in here? I said, I just can't stop crying. I can't help but read this stuff, and like, I went to read all Ephesians 2 to you and pull out the beauty of how you're not just saved, but he's made you part of the building. He's called you sons, not just servants. He's made you part of his family. You're part of God's family. He hasn't just got you in as some spare help. Like, oh my goodness, what a beautiful thought. That God hasn't got you in as like a last minute substitution, but he's brought you in as sons and daughters. And like when you really start to think about that, me and Emma watched Avatar last night. And in this, there's this part, when everyone comes to attack their family, this thing happens. Is that from the youngest to oldest, there's little family all together in Avatar, and they're the blue people. And every time someone comes after them, all the other family do this. I'm like, and everyone goes, whoa, backwards. Because they're family. And they want to defend, and they want to look after, and they want to protect. And it's like a 4-year-old kid doing it. But what he knows is that we protect each other. And that is the sort of family you have become part of when you become a Christian. Isn't that beautiful? A family where God is saying that he sits over you like a mother hen. That he protects you, looks after your rear guard. That he's for you and not against you. He's come to give you life and life to the full. Not just as servants, but as sons and daughters in his kingdom. Isn't that like... Really try this week to sit in that. Really try to actually let that become a reality. For those of you who've got kids and family, just think what it means for your kid to be part of that. And how sad it would be if our children felt like they weren't really part of it. But let God love you. I don't know, for some of us, we've been so hurt by love that it's thrown us sideways. And sometimes we need to go back to the source and say, God, all the other stuff I've ever experienced that I thought was love, I'm going to put in another box. I'm going to come to you just as I am and just say, God, would you show me? Could I really believe, God, that you love me? Passionately love me. So much so that when I read these words, that the reason you did that was because you loved me. You were once dead. And I love this verse because we start off trying to make excuses. We get to the end saying, but that's what we're all like. The thing that unites us is the fact that we couldn't save ourselves, that we couldn't do it ourselves. May this year be a year of invitation, but a year of passionately desiring the reality of God. If it takes you 100 weeks, and every week you're coming to the front for prayer, who knows, next week might be your breakthrough. May this be a place where we're saying, God's people are here, my family are here, and so therefore until I see breakthrough, I'm going to set my face like stone to trust in God. Surround myself with people who are praying for me, who are helping me, who are supporting me, who are human, who are going to say stupid stuff and make mistakes. But I'm not sitting around their campfires. They can. But I've set my face to follow God. And along the way, beautiful people will join you. And I've sat in churches where family surrounds you in moments of pain and just pray for you and see breakthrough. And I've sat in churches where loving Christians sit with people and give them terrible advice. But the thing that gets you through it is saying, but in this, I'm going to follow God. I'd really like to play this song 1,000 times so you will just play it once. This is the song that I'm listening to probably this morning about 30 times. If you've been wandering around the building, I had my headphones in listening to it all morning. I really like to play it for us, and I'd really like you to... I really ask God to help us come back to this moment of real, heartfelt revelation of his love for us. Holy Spirit, you tell us that you're with us even to the end of this age. You tell us that in Matthew 28. You tell us in John 10:10 that you've come to give us life and life to the full. You've told us that you've sent another one to be with us, and he is here with us. We know that your word clearly tells us that we have become temples of who you are. You've sent your Holy Spirit to come and live in each of us who believe in you. And I pray, Holy Spirit, that right now we'd be so fully surrendered to you. The Lord, I pray that these words that we listen to, that in the midst of all of that, your still small whisper is whispering it into our very soul words of life. And I pray that this might be such a transformational moment in our life, that we sit at the feet of Jesus, not as a concept, but as a real reality. That we boldly approach the throne of grace, that you have paid a full price for, so that we are welcomed. And I pray, Holy Spirit, you would do something mighty in our lives that we'd never forget from this day till the day we die. And more than that, I pray for myself that I would be in this place until the day I die. That these would become real realities to me, not just concepts. Not just things that I can teach, not just things that I can preach. It's up to you what you do in this time of worship. I'm not going to dictate. If you want to stand up and sing or sit down or walk around, you are not tied to your chair. You don't have to stay in your chair. But I really want to listen to this song. And if you want to join in, please join in.